Welcome, this is Mrs. Rutchling. This lecture is going to go over significant figures, and it's often abbreviated sig figs. Our measurements are limited by our tools. We've covered that you can do the known digits and one estimated. These are considered significant. Anything electronic has already included the estimated digit, and so you just record whatever you see on the display. Let's look at the rules. The first rule is any non-zero digit, so a number that is not a zero, is significant. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, so we have 4 significant figures. Here we have 2. 65.6 has 3. And 122.55 has 5 significant figures. Zeros have a couple of different rules. The first one is leading zeros. So zeros that lead the number that start off this way are not significant. They are insignificant. So we only count anything past it. So there's 1 in this measurement. There are 3 here. 0.0042 has 2 significant figures, and this value has 3 significant figures. Another zero rule, sandwich zeros. Zeros in between non-zero numbers are significant. So this one is significant. So we have 1, 2, 3. These 2 are in the middle, so we have a total of 4. This next one has a combination. We know that leading zeros are not significant, and the 0 in the center or in between is, so this one will have 3 significant figures. Our last number, again, leading zeros do not count. We have 1, 2, 3 significant figures. Last zero rule is trailing zeros. So this is zeros to the right. What we do is you ask yourself, is there a decimal point? If there is, then the trailing zeros to the right are significant. If there's not a decimal point, they are not significant. So just ask yourself, decimal, yes, then yes, the trailing zeros are significant. Decimal, no, trailing zeros are not. Let's look at our first one. We have 25,000. There is no decimal place, so the trailing zeros are insignificant. 200 years, there is a decimal place, so all of our zeros to the right, the trailing zeros, are significant. Here is the same value, but there is not a decimal point, and so only the 1 significant figure exists. If we have 48,600, no decimal point, the trailing zeros do not count. That gives us 3 significant figures. Looking at our last value, we know the 2s and the 5s are significant. We have zeros. They're in between the 5s, so those 2 are significant. Then we have trailing zeros. We look, is there a decimal point? Yes, that means these are significant. So we have 8 significant figures in this number. Pause the video and give this a try. Both B and C have 3. If I look at the second one, I'm looking for zeros that are significant. Well, I know that leading zeros are not significant, so A cannot be the right answer, a right answer. Here I have a decimal point, so these zeros are significant, so yes, I can include this. And now we have a different type of number. We have scientific notation. Scientific notation, we look at this part, the coefficient, and then we just follow our rules. We ignore, for significant figures, we ignore, so the 2 is significant, the 0 because it's sandwiched, the 5. We have a trailing 0, and there is a decimal point, so that one is significant, so all the zeros are significant there. If I look at A, I have 22.0 and 22.00. The zeros are significant in both numbers because both numbers have a decimal point, and so that one is not correct. They don't have the same number. B, I have 400.0. The 4 is significant. The trailing zeros are significant because there is a decimal point. 40, the 4 is significant, but the trailing 0 is not because there's not a decimal point, so that one's not. All right, so C, if I look at this first value, leading zeros are not significant, so I have 2 significant figures. Our second number, I have 2 significant figures, and I have trailing zeros. There is not a decimal place, so those are not significant. So both of these values have 2 significant figures. Pause the video and give this one a try. For A, leading zeros are not significant. The 3 is, and the 0 is a trailing 0. There is a decimal point, so it is significant, so I have 2. For B, I know that 4 and 5 are significant. This first 0 is in between, so it is significant. The last 0 is trailing. I have a decimal place, yes. I have a decimal point, yes. So it is significant, so there are 4 significant figures. For C, I know that my leading zeros are not significant, and that leaves us with 1 significant figure. For D, 3 is significant, and I have trailing zeros. Is there a decimal point? Yes. So yes, they are significant, and I have 3 significant figures. I have a whole lot of B's here. My 2 is significant, my 8 is significant, the sandwich 0 is significant, and then I have 4 trailing zeros. Because there is no decimal point, they are not significant, and I end up with 3 significant figures.